Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to the regularly scheduled Planning Commission meeting of May 18th, 2022. Could we have a flag salute led by Commissioner Turley Trejo, please?
Yes. Please repeat with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Could we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Hagel,
Here.
Commissioner Ruiz,
Here.
Commissioner Turley Trey,
Here.
and Chairman Watts.
I'm here.
And we have an excused absence from Commissioner Telesio.
Thank you very much. Do we have any public comments tonight? I will dispense with the reading of that. Do we have anyone here interested in speaking on the consent calendar tonight?
None.
None on that, so we're going to dispense with that one also. And tonight on the consent calendar, we have two items. The first one is the minutes from May 4th, 2022. The second item on our consent calendar is the Director's Hearing Summary Report.
I make a motion on the minutes.
I'll second
to
it.
approve.
Motion by Commissioner Turley Trejo, seconded by Commissioner Hagel. All those in favor?
Aye.
And I believe that's a 4-0 vote with one absent. Very good. Our next item on the agenda tonight is our business. Members of the public may address the commission on business items that appear on the agenda. Each speaker is limited to 5 minutes. Public comments may be made in person at the meeting by submitting a speaker card to the commission secretary or by submitting an email to be read aloud into the record at the meeting. Email comments must be submitted to planningcommission@temeculaca.gov. Speaker cards for in-person comments will be called in the order received by the commission secretary, and then, if time remains, email comments will be read. Email comments on all matters must be received prior to the time the item is called for public comments. All public participation is governed by the council policy regarding public participation at meetings adopted by resolution number 2021-54. And item number 3 on our agenda is general plan consistency review of the proposed draft fiscal years 2023 through 2027 capital improvement program budget sheets, long range planning project number LR22-0503. Could we have a staff report, please?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Chairperson and Commissioners. Today I'll be presenting to you the Capital Improvement Program General Plan Consistency Review for fiscal year 2023 through 2027. Okay. The CIP Consistency Review is an annual requirement for the Planning Commission to review and provide comments and/or recommendation to the City Council regarding the CIP's conformity to the general plan. And to list our projects, they're broken into 4 general categories: circulation projects, of which there are 30 and totaling $619 million. The infrastructure projects, of which there are 52, totaling $111 million. Our parks and recreation projects, there are 20 and $44 million. And our Sarda, which is our successor agency to the redevelopment agency, we have 3 projects there totaling almost $18 million. We have a total of 105 projects totaling $793 million in capital improvements. This is the largest CIP budget we've had, and the CIP is 74% funded with secured funding. To go over the projects in detail, we have 30 projects in our circulation element. Just kind of going over some of the bigger ones. We have some interchange improvements, the I-15 French Valley Parkway and the Interstate 15 State Route 79 Ultimate Interchange. We have for traffic safety, we have flashing beacons and speed advisory signs, citywide buffered bike lane striping, and then for our maintenance rehab, we have pavement rehabilitation and traffic signals, and then we're going to do the Murrieta Creek Bridge at Overland Drive and the Pechanga Parkway widening. Staff has reviewed the general plan and has determined that these projects are consistent with the goals and policies of the circulation, growth management, public facilities, air quality, and the community design elements of the adopted general plan. Our infrastructure projects, there are 52. Our enhancement improvements, we're going to be doing bike lanes and trails, our Old Town surveillance and sound system, and we're going to be upgrading the fiber optic communication system. For our new infrastructure, we're going to be doing the Marietta Creek improvements, Margarita Rec Center, our Old Town parking structure, and the citywide utility undergrounding. For public safety, we're going to be doing the city facility security, fire station improvements, and local roadway safety plan. Staff has reviewed the general plan and determined these projects are consistent with the goals and policies of the land use, circulation, open space / conservation and growth management, public facilities, public safety, community design, air quality, and economic development elements of the adopted general plan. Our park and recreation projects, we have total of 20. Our enhancements are going to be a dog park renovation, the Children's Museum, Community Recreation Center and splash pad, and the sports field lighting conversion. For renovations and repairs, we'll be doing flood control channel reconstruction and the Ronald Reagan Sports Park restroom expansion and renovation. Staff has reviewed the general plan and determined that these projects are consistent with the goals and policies of the open space conservation, community design, growth management, public facilities, and air quality elements of the adopted general plan. And lastly, we have 3 Sarda projects. We have the Habitat for Humanity, our Old Town units, Las Haciendas Affordable Housing Project, and the Vine Creek Affordable Housing Project. Staff has reviewed the general plan and has determined that these projects are consistent with the goals and policies of the land use and housing elements of the adopted general plan. CEQA determination, it is exempt, not a project, as defined by CEQA guidelines section 15061B3 and 15378B4. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution making a finding of consistency with the general plan for the proposed draft fiscal years 2023 through 2027 capital improvement program, budget sheets, and make a finding of exemption under sections 15378B4, 15061B3, and 15262 of the California Environmental Quality Act, Long Range Planning Project Number LR 220503. This concludes my staff report, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Mark. Well done. Do we have any questions of staff? Bob?
Several years ago, we did, I believe we had an outside firm do a survey of all of our roads to determine the order that maintenance and repairs would be done on those roads. And I was wondering if that's still something, either we're using the old report, or do we update that? And are we using an outside firm to update that? So there is no political motivations as to whose road gets fixed and whose doesn't in each year. That was the purpose for doing it that way. And I was wondering if that was still the way we do it.
I'll defer to our Public Works Director.
Yeah, so that is true that we had all of our pavements evaluated by that firm. Everything was scanned citywide. And what they do is they come up with what's called a PCI, a Pavement Condition Index. So we look at that index and then we prioritize all of our projects based upon that. And so we track that number in our Lucity software. And as a street gets upgraded, whether it's through the development process or through CIP process, we then we delete that number because we know it has to be reevaluated at some point.
Right.
And then we do prioritize our slurry projects based upon the PCI.
Okay. So is that something we need to have them update every so often, or do we use that original database?
We use the original because as pavement is rehabbed,
Right.
then it's in a condition that we really won't want to look at it for another 10 years.
It comes off the list.
It comes off the list.
Yeah.
And then at some point, yes, we will redo that, but it does not have to be done annually or even every 5 years.
Right.
It's more of an as needed basis as a city builds out.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner?
If you have a lot of My only question was, there's a list, I was trying to pull it back up here on my computer, but a list of all the projects that are fully listed out within that CIP. Is there is there like an order or a ranking order? Are they listed in order that they're looking to be completed, or how is that going to be dealt with?
No, I mean, they're listed by category, so like,
So within each category, there's another dozen or so for the, is that in order, or is that?
they have a priority, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, and it's based upon the funding and the funding source. So as Mark had mentioned, that we have funding available for, 74% of, but if it's based upon a funding, let's say Measure A, or it's another type of funding, there's certain years that we can take that money. So we can't actually do the projects in that order. So if you go to each sheet, and you can all download the proposed budget, if you go to each sheet, it'll show you the years that we can actually do the design, where we can do the construction, and then so that you'll be able to realize when that project is actually going to occur.
Okay, all right, great.
So if it involves a grant, that grant may only be good for so many years or a certain time frame, right?
Correct, and that's very common in our federal grants with Caltrans, and so, for instance, our fiber optic projects going on right now, they have certain milestones that you have to hit, so you can't go too fast and you can't go too slow. It'll tell you exactly the year it needs to be completed.
Great, thank you.
Okay, I have some questions. First of all, I want to say I went through this packet and highlighted everything that had been completed. I think it's amazing. So first of all, like really, if we were to look at that and go, wow, like this is when they said they would do it and it's done. So I think that's really commendable and would be nice if we could get that out, like information for people in the city to know that. I don't know how you do that, but I think that that's really important for people to know. And so that's number one. And then I had a couple of questions. So I noticed that most of the budget is in circulation, right? So my question on goal number one, this has probably been explained to me at some point, but I still don't understand why we're happy with a level of service D in our intersections. What does that mean? And like, I've never been happy with a D. So like, why are we happy with a D?
Ron Moreno.
Good thing you're here.
So the level of service is based upon our traffic impacts, and you look at the timing with regards to how traffic can actually get through an intersection. So therefore, the level of service not only indicates what the traffic flow is, but it also tells us what funding we can actually get. Because if we don't have a level of service D, we're not going to get certain funding to improve our roadways. City of Temecula traffic is such that, yes, a lot of our circulation is at that level right now just because of the size of our community and the fact that we do have choke points. If you think about it, we only have 3 east-west connectors, which we should have more than that to get people to across not only the freeway, but the creek.
You're talking about Temecula Parkway, Rancho California, and Winchester,
Well, yeah, and
basically?
pretty much, yeah. And that's all we have available to get us over. And so that's what's creating these level of service Ds. So that is the goal, to try to not make it worse than that, but it gives us the ability to get the funding.
So do we ever make a goal for like a C?
We would, yes, for sure. But once we have to get past our build-out stage.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
So you have to think of it in what's currently taking place, and then what would those intersections be when all of the circulation element roadways and intersections are in place. So right now, we're missing many of them. The eastern bypass, the western bypass, a number of other roads. And so that's causing there to be this lower level of service in the here and now. But once everything's built out, theoretically,
We can move up.
yes, everything would be moving up to a higher level.
Okay.
Well, and isn't it true that, our frustration with roads is usually rush hour, so 5 o'clock type thing. You don't design a road to be at a service level at rush hour. So, our frustrations aren't around the typical time, it's around the high density time. And so I think to ever expect a road to be at 5 o'clock is probably just never going to happen in a city that's growing, so.
Yeah, I just always wondered why we were happy with a D, so that helps me a little bit. And then I had a couple of questions on a couple of circulation projects. The French Valley Parkway, Phase 2. So can you give me an update on that?
Sure. Getting very close to ready to list, which means Caltrans will give us the the ability then to go out to bid. So you should see a construction management RFP coming out within the month. So we're going to pick a construction management firm. We'll take that to council, and then we're hoping by end of year that we'll be fully in construction, be able to get a contractor on board and be in construction. So I think the last part of the right-of-way now has been acquired. And so that was really what was holding this all up, was the property negotiations that you probably saw going to council. You saw those as agenda reports at the last council meeting. So the right-of-way is critical, and it's the last part. So
Okay.
we're there, so it's going to start up real soon.
Okay, thank you. Then another thing, and I actually talked to Pat about this, is the overhead street name sign replacement program. And it's supposed to be completed 22, 23. And I don't know if anything can be changed at this point, but if you, and I'm assuming, I don't know, like where Roypa is, but a little past Roypa, like Port Roy Road, is that
That is not,
county?
that's not the city.
So if you've seen their signs, they're amazing. Like, that would be so cool to have those signs in Temecula. They're big, they're bigger, and they're just like the font, everything. They're really professional looking. So I don't know if anything can be changed, but I'm just putting that out there because it's a noticeable difference of, you're like, wow, that's great, awesome.
Well, I drive that way every Monday night, so I'll take a look.
Yeah, take a look. They're just, anyway, I think that would be really a cool improvement. And then, let's see, I have a couple other things. So this is under community design element, and I don't know where it is. Community design element for something, but it's policy 1.4, promote community identity by providing specially designed gateway signs and landscape enhancements at the primary entrances to the city. Do we have an update on that? Like, we've talked about that so much as far as coming from the south, coming from San Diego, and we have something coming from going south from the north, right? But we don't have anything coming into the city. Well, we do,
Yeah,
on the left-hand side.
Mercedes.
We do have that.
Yeah.
But I think what we've talked about is like getting off of Temecula Parkway and having something. Is there any update on that?
Yes and no. So we've been working with Caltrans on the off-ramps and the on-ramps for directional signage to points of interest. But Caltrans is very particular about what they allow on the off-ramps or any of their right-of-way, really, right, Ron? So it's not going to be something that is Temecula-oriented, or it's like a monument for Temecula. It's just going to be points of interest that come off of the right when you come off of the freeway. So, but generally speaking, we haven't had any discussions lately about new monumentation on the freeway coming in from north or south. There is the broader project idea of 15 Freeway Beautification that was put forward by Visit Temecula Valley, which is a comprehensive, basically reimagining of the freeway, which is definitely on the table for the future. We have auxiliary lanes going in over the next 5 years. We have French Valley Interchange going in. There's going to be some landscape going in down at the Temecula Parkway big loop that, as you get off on the south side. So our general thinking right now is that we want to wait till those improvements are in place before we start doing too much to the freeway. We have been talking a little bit about the overpasses and what could be done there. Still very preliminary, but definitely want to do something. It's just not, it's not something that's really, ready to roll out at this point.
Okay. All right, thank you. And then,
Can I ask a
sorry.
quick?
Yeah.
So I know at one point there was discussion and communication with Pachanga even about some like tribal, is that part of the freeway beautification, or is that?
Yeah,
what
that
she's-
is.
More what she's talking about?
No, it is. I mean, well, the big roundabout, the big loop as you come off,
yeah.
that centered portion there that's not landscaped will be landscaped. It was funded by Pachanga, and it will be native landscapes, and it'll have some, thematic elements that are tied to the tribe.
And that's part of the CIP, or that's part of the proposed beautification project?
No, those are separate.
Those are, okay,
Those are separate.
Okay.
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, and then, thank you. And then economic development, which is right up our alley, right? That's who we are. So I'm looking at goal number 2, a diverse economic base, including a range of manufacturing, blah, 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 right? Policy 2.5, promote retail and other support activities that provide a broader selection of high-quality goods, services for resident, yada, yada. So I wanted to make a couple suggestions.
Sure.
Since this is the time to do it, right? So one thing that there is not anywhere in this area, the closest of anything is down in basically Claremont, San Diego, is a swim shop. A shop for swimming stuff. So, just putting it out there. I think it would be, especially if now we're kind of starting to talk about a possible aquatic center. I don't know, that's kind of out there. But that's something, and that I don't see anywhere. So that was a suggestion I had for that. And let's see if there was anything else. Oh, then I wanted, is there an update on the hockey rink and the skate park at Ronald Reagan?
What do you run?
Yep, they're both in the CIP budget, so they're being accounted for, and they're going to be funded, and we're working on designs right now, well, preliminary, and it'll be moving forward.
Okay. And then the sports court resurfacing, is that everywhere, like all the parks? Kind of that's a general,
Yes.
okay. Okay, I think, yep, I think that was it, all the questions I had. Thank you.
Quite welcome. Any other questions? Mr. Hagel?
Yeah, the last section on the 3 housing projects, what's the timing of those 3 projects?
Yeah, good question. So the first Las Haciendas is under construction now. It's off Las Haciendas Road in Uptown, just off Jefferson. They broke ground a couple months ago. 9 months or so, 9 to 12 months, they should be complete. So they're full steam ahead. Vine Creek, which is the 60-unit project right over here across the creek, right next to the Main Street Apartments. The city initially had $2.6 million allocated to that project, just put in another $4 million of community reinvestment program funds to make it more competitive for tax credit rounds, which we think that a level of funding will make it very competitive. They'll be applying again in July. There's 2 rounds a year, March and July. So we're crossing our fingers that they get tax credits. If they get tax credits, they'll be fully funded, and they'll be ready to go as fast as they can go. But as of right now, we can't really give you a timing on that because they're not fully funded. Once they're fully funded, 12 to 18 months of construction time, most likely. And then the third one is the Habitat for Humanity project, which is not approved yet, but it's going to be coming before the council in summer. It's 6 units of townhomes, attached townhomes, right over here on the corner of Pujol, right across from the Boys and Girls Club. There's already a 5-unit project there that is Habitat, those single-family homes. It's right next to that, and the city owns that property, so we're negotiating with Habitat right now for that. It's probably 18 months out to 2 years before it's complete on those projects.
Okay. Sarda, can new funds go into Sarda?
So, very good question.
Yeah.
Successor agency to the Temecula Redevelopment Agency is one entity, and the city of Temecula as housing successor is another entity. So when the redevelopment agency was dissolved, all of the redevelopment assets, right, non-housing assets, go to the Sarda. successor agency to the Temecula Redevelopment Agency, all the housing assets, including cash and all the assets that are owned by the redevelopment agency, go to the city. So the city actually takes over those, takes ownership of those. So there is some residual bond proceeds that were housing dollars that the city still owns, or still has. And then we have other funding sources that are coming in, rental revenue, grant funding for housing, all for housing, goes to the city as housing successor, which is a separate entity.
Right.
It's not necessarily the city, it's the city as housing
Right.
successor. So there are no more housing redevelopment funds, there are none. There are other sources now and residual from the old days.
So Sarda has no assets any longer then? Is
The
it?
successor agency
Yeah.
does.
It does.
It owns the two properties out front,
Okay.
yeah.
What happens to Sarda when those assets are no longer assets of Sarda?
So there's a document called the Recognized Obligation Payment Schedule, or the ROPS, and on that document is listed all of the obligations of the former agency. So, you know, agreements all the way up to bond debt service. And it's a timeline, and all the payments are listed out in a timeline. And once all those payments, you know, all those debts are paid down, the last payment on the bonds, which is really gonna be the last, it's, you know, out 20 years or so, gets paid off, basically the successor agency just
Goes
Goes
away.
away.
Okay. When that agency goes away, does the city have the ability to do redevelopment?
Well, the city has the ability to do economic development, and that can manifest itself in partnering in public-private partnerships for redevelopment of projects. So out front here is a good example, even though that it was owned or is owned by the successor agency. There are other things the city can do if there's an economic interest to the community, like, you know, enter into tax sharing agreements and things like that. It's very rare. We don't like to do that, but we have abilities, some limited abilities to negotiate for projects that have significant economic impact to the city. It's not as robust
Right.
as redevelopment, not nearly as robust,
Right.
not nearly as robust, but we do have certain tools that we can use to entice and, you know, financially incentivize certain projects.
So our ability to do things on our own is going to be very, very limited. And going forward, anything that we do, we'll have to have a partner then somehow. Pretty
Yeah,
much.
it would have needed a partner even the redevelopment days, right? So we would be a land partner or a cash partner, but we wouldn't be really involved in the development itself or even the outright, typically the outright ownership of something. It's more of we're a partnership, we're a funding partner or a land, you know, we're putting land into the deal kind of partner or something like that. Or it could be a tax sharing relationship too. So with Abbott, we had a property tax sharing agreement with them where, because all the money that went to Sarda was property taxes. It was pre-existing property taxes, not new property. It was just sliced up differently. So we agreed with them to return some of the funds that we received through property tax back to them through the redevelopment agency. So there are incentives that we use in that kind of manner, but those aren't really available to us anymore.
It just strikes me that the state basically has increased the requirements on the city to help create homes, yet at the same time, we've had taken away our ability to do redevelopment, and it just seems like it's working against the ability to develop, you know, housing particularly for the working class person, so,
I agree.
okay. Thank you.
That looks like that's it from questioning. Does anyone care to move the resolution?
Do we want to see if there's any comments from the public?
Do we have any comments from the public?
We have none?
It's not a public.
Sorry.
Okay. I got confused. I thought we did that, so my bad again, so.
It was a half hour ago.
I will move the item
I'll second.
Who seconded? Adam?
Yes.
Okay. Moved by Turley-Trejo, seconded by Ruiz. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's a 4-0 vote in the affirmative. Thank you for that. That was more educational than I anticipated to begin with. So my compliments to all staff on being on top of this. These questions that this commission asks are very difficult. So you can all smile as you go home tonight. You did good. Okay, very good. Next item on our agenda is commission reports. I'll just start on the left over here. No report.
None, no.
None. Very good. Commission subcommittee reports. I know we had one subcommittee. Did we have any other meetings? Okay. Did you mind?
No, I'll do that. Okay, so today we had by Mark, also, he's been busy today. We had an ad hoc committee meeting for Commercial Center Code. Is that the right title? Yeah. And actually, it's kind of a cool subcommittee, and you guys might be kind of jealous that you're not on it. So I'm going to tell you about it. So, we have like shopping carts hanging out in the city, and what I learned from our last subcommittee meeting is they're like $400, $500 each. Wow. Had no idea. So there's a lot of businesses that are losing money from those, obviously. So it was really, I think, stellar. That's a good word for our staff to do. And actually, Mark himself went out and talked to 82 businesses, their managers, I guess, their store managers, and talked to them about this ordinance that the city is going to put in place for these shopping carts, so to speak, for prevention, right? Theft prevention is the idea. And so there's 3 ways that these businesses can go, correct?
Correct.
Correct me if I'm wrong. So the first one is a perimeter. So if you take the shopping cart across the perimeter, you can't.
It
There's a
locks one of the
locking
wheels.
mechanism on the
Yeah,
wheels.
you can't push it any further. So there's a locking mechanism on that. And Food for Less actually has that in our city already. And they have very few carts taken from their property, correct?
Yes.
And then the second one is where you actually buy your own cart, and it's like a fold-up cart, the black carts. And the third one is the coin cart, like Aldi has. So you actually put in a coin, rent your cart, basically, get your coin back when you're done shopping. So anyway, Mark did a great report on all the businesses, and they are, all of them pretty much in favor of this. And so this ordinance will come to Planning Commission on June 1st and City Council in July, correct?
Correct.
July 12th, I think. So anyway, it was really interesting. I don't know, do you have anything to add?
No, that's very thorough. Thank you.
Okay, so I thought it was really cool. So are you guys jealous?
Very good. Thank you very much, Lene. Community Development Director report. Mr. Watson?
Yes, a couple things. Many of you already know, but the Culture Fest is this Saturday, so come on down. It's first of its kind. I think people are very excited about that. Second thing is tomorrow at 9 o'clock is the budget workshop for the City Council. So that's the annual workshop where they, the budget is revealed to them for the first time in public, and there's a discussion. So if you have free time, starting at 9 o'clock, come on down and see. I think that you'll be pleasantly surprised to see how well the city is doing financially. So, and then I want Matt to talk a little bit about the outdoor dining out in Old Town and what the kind of fate is there. So,
Before you get started, though, council meeting in here, or will it be across?
oh, good, thank you. It's over in the conference center. Yeah.
All right, before I talk the outdoor dining, Mark and I will be at Culture Fest on Saturday promoting the QLMP, so stop by the booth if you're there. As far as the outdoor dining, it was a temporary program that was approved back in spring of 19, and then was extended a couple times, I guess, to help the businesses through the pandemic. So when the emergency orders came through and they had limited seating and dining capacity, we allowed them to go into the street, and it kept those businesses viable. The city council asked us to take a look at making that program permanent, and we started to do that. We met with Public Works, Fire, Building and Safety, and started to look at making a permanent program. And as we did that, we uncovered a lot of obstacles regarding whether or not the street was owned by the city or whether or not it was an easement, who we shared the street with, and the ability for other utilities to get in there if they needed to extend fiber or if there was a water main break. We looked at some of the fees that they were going to have to incur, both EMWD fees, building permit fees, school fees. In some cases, depending on the number of seats, they might have to upgrade their fixtures, bathrooms and sinks. And also there were some complications with approving a conditional use permit in public right-of-way. So as we investigated this and making it permanent, we just ran into a lot of obstacles. We ended up making a presentation to the Old Town Steering Committee consisting of Councilmember Schwank and Alexander. And the decision has basically been to let that program expire. So we had agreements with all the businesses down here that took advantage of it, and those agreements expired June 30th. We, much like Mark did with the shopping cart ordinance, we hand-delivered a letter informing everyone. We haven't received a lot of feedback negatively. In fact, a lot of the feedback has been, it's time. And there were a couple businesses that were really taking advantage of it, and it was really working for them, but we went and met with them, and they understood the challenges. They were not surprised by it at all. In fact, they were wondering how we were going to make it permanent. So if you're asked about the outdoor dining in Old Town, it is going away. We're working with Public Works. We're going to close the streets to make it easy for them to take that down. I think we're going to close it a couple mornings, the end of
20th and 21st.
Yeah, 20th.
June. It's a Monday and a Tuesday, morning time. So that's the slowest part of the week. So
Yeah, and then they can take it down and the program will go away and it'll be business as usual. One of the things that did come out of our discussions, though, was maybe investigating doing parklets. So not these permanent outdoor dining programs, but something less formal that could be used by anyone. It wouldn't be assigned to a specific business. So if, we don't have a lot of parks down here. If you're walking around, you just want to take a little break, maybe we'll do some parklets in the future. If you take a look like on Front Street and the side streets, our parking doesn't, the blocks are so long, and then we have parking stalls that are 18 feet long. And in some cases, there are spots that are left over that aren't necessarily big enough for parking. So we might look at doing something in those areas.
yeah, thanks, Matt. And additionally to just revisiting or reimagining the ability for other weekly events in Old Town, maybe a different farmer's market, a different spot in Old Town on a Tuesday or Wednesday to kind of liven up those nights, which are the slower nights of the week. So all of this is going to come before you. We're going to do a whole effort on this. So we'll utilize the Old Town Subcommittee of the Planning Commission to kind of guide us through that, as well as the Subcommittee of the City Council. But that's kind of where it landed in the end. So anything else, Matt?
Yeah, just if you're asked about it, it will expire per the agreements that they all signed June 30th.
Just quick question, just more out of curiosity. Because I've seen the stuff posted, and like you, I think I've heard much more positive feedback from the general public. There was funding, if I remember correctly, that was given, whether it was state or I don't remember if it was city, to assist these businesses in kind of being able to expand their stuff out. Is there city funds or state funds that are helping with the cost of removing all that and taking it all down, or is that a business expense?
The funding I think you're talking about was the Community Reinvestment Program funds that were put forth, about $1.5 million conceptually to assist with the program in a permanent format. Those were not repurposed to assist with demolition. So the demolition is just a business cost.
Just business costs. Yeah, just curious. All right, thank you.
Just an idea, something to think about, that perhaps in some of the parks land that's, I know there's not a lot of it in Old Town, but where there is, if we could put a few tables with benches around it, that people could get a sandwich somewhere, get takeout, and actually have a place other than the restaurant to eat. That, I think, is also something that could be very useful. I was in a restaurant the other night and watched a couple get takeout. Actually, it was a food store. Buy some takeout or whatever, and it was dinner time. They went out and tried to find a table to sit down and eat. And I think in their case, it was a situation of it's a whole lot cheaper than going into a restaurant. But, that may be something that becomes even more appealing with food prices. And just being able to sit and relax and eat a little something, so.
Yeah, that's the idea we'll be investigating and exploring. I think one of the examples that was talked about was sometimes when maybe a couple goes to the mall and one of them likes to shop more than the other, the one person can sit down and relax. Same concept as can be applied to Old Town.
Well, how do you just lounge in Old Town if you're not going to a business, right? If you want to sit down in Old Town, you have to go to a restaurant. I mean, primarily. So how
Well,
do you just get people to hang out, create more of a social atmosphere that is not necessarily inside of a business? How do we engage people, make them stay longer? How do they browse around? Where can they relax and hang out?
I mean, I go to Old Town just to walk, because I think it's a neat place to go to walk. And, sometimes I'll want to get a little sandwich or something like that and just sit and watch the people and have a little something to eat.
So I'm being informed that we are bumping up against the line of this not being on the agenda. So unless you have anything else to say, Matt, we'll probably have to end it there. We'll be back.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very good. Maybe if we deal with a future agenda item on that, we can address the opportunities which in my quick mind the Creek Trail might present some opportunities as well for that. So
Thank you so much. You reminded me, since I'm still not technically done with my update. Next Thursday, 4 o'clock, grand opening of the Creek Trail. Thursday. Let me make sure here. I'm getting my calendar out. No, you're right. It's Friday. Friday at 4 p.m. at the Main Street Bridge. And that's right. And it's going to be a big event. There's going to be a lot of people there. So if you want to be there, we'll all be there.
okay, that's enough of our spontaneous comments here. Well, we're not going to go there, though. Very good. Is that all, Mr. Watson? Very good. Mr. Moreno?
Okay, I think we handled a lot of it during the CIP presentation. However, just wanted to let you know it's Public Works Week. So we've been celebrating that all week, and we're having a little barbecue over at the FOC. And so just been enjoyable working with all of you.
Ron, are you inviting You guys are planning? Awesome.
Yes, of course. We're having hamburgers and hot dogs. Rodney's cooking.
Okay.
And the Planning Commission, too, if they want to
Yes,
come.
if you want to meet the street crews, and the people that do the work, the guys out there doing maintenance and, making sure our traffic signals are working, yeah, definitely come by and to the FOC, the Field Operations Center. We're having a little barbecue.
Well, we appreciate all you guys do. My goodness. Really,
you.
truly. Thank you.
And I do have a follow-up question regarding this agenda item on your report. So,
Which one?
I noticed on my walks on Rancho California Road, and this may be catch you by surprise. I'm sorry if it does.
Oh, no.
But it just, I noticed they were tearing up the sidewalk and doing some underground stuff.
That's our fiber optic
That's what I was
project. So that's
thinking.
running fiber all the way from Butterfield Stage all the way over here to Rancho Cal. And so They've laid the conduit, they're running the fiber now, so those are just borehole locations. They'll come back through, fix all that up, make it nice, and then they're gonna run that fiber into all the cabinets. And that's gonna allow us, we've always had copper interconnect. However, with fiber, that allows us to be able to do it from our traffic center on the fly, change timing, manipulate the signals. Before it was, we'd have to get the data. If there was a problem out in the field, our traffic guys would go out there and they would get into the cabinet and they would make the change. But now we'll be able to just have an app that is going to be allow us for that fiber connection all the way through. So we're doing that on multiple corridors. So it's not just Rancho Cal. It's going to be Temecula Parkway, Butterfield, Winchester. So this is an ongoing federal project that we received a I have it right here, 1.2 million grant from Caltrans through the federal, resources. And so that's the project you're seeing out there.
Well, I apologize, probably should have asked you that when we had our discussion on the CIP projects, but I still think it fits within the community, the Public Works report. So with that, thank you very much for the answer, and thank you for the update.
You bet.
And with that, I think we've reached the end of our agenda, and I will go ahead and adjourn our meeting until our regular scheduled next meeting, which is June 1, 2022, right here in the Temecula City Council chambers. We stand adjourned.